Welcome to the Mindset and Motivation Podcast, one of the top motivational podcasts in the world. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we come out with a short, to the point, no BS episode to help make massive changes in your mind and transform you from who you are now to who you want to be. My name is Rob Dial, and the podcast starts now. Welcome to today's episode. If you have not yet done so, hit that subscribe button so that you never miss another episode of this podcast. And last but not least, if you have not noticed, the logo for this podcast has changed, and the name will be changing on September 9th to the Mindset Mentor Podcast with Rob Dial. So make sure that you make note of it. Mindset Mentor is what you're looking for. So if you go into iTunes or however you listen to this and you type in the Mindset and Motivation Podcast and it doesn't pop up, don't be like, holy crap, what happened to the podcast? Just remember, oh yeah, that's right. He changed the name of the podcast. So wanted to make sure that you guys all know that, so that you know if you're looking for it, you can't find it. It is the Mindset Mentor Podcast. And if you are subscribed, don't worry, you will still be subscribed. It is just the name changing. I am so excited to go through this and to change the name, because really it's been a few years coming of trying to figure out what is it that I actually love to teach. And there's motivational stuff in here, but really what it is I like to dive into what's going on in your mind. And if you were to have a mentor, I would love to be your mentor as a mindset mentor to help you navigate this world and the trials and tribulations and the good and the bad and everything that comes out. So remember, the Mindset Mentor Podcast with Rob Dial is the new name. But let's go ahead and dive into today's episode. You are not broken. And that's something that some people need to hear, and I realize I need to hear a lot, because most people feel like they're broken. They feel like all they look at is flaws. They feel like they're completely flawed, that they've made so many mistakes in their life, and for some reason, they can't forgive themselves for things they've done in the past, even though the past will never change. There's no way to ever change the past. There's no way to go back and do something about the things that you've already done. You're flawed. You're a human. That's the beauty of it. But to actually sit there and mope about something that's in the past that you can't change is complete insanity. And I was reading a book that I told you about in the last episode, which is called Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. And he goes through his personal philosophy. It's just a journal that he wrote to himself. And one thing that he says, he talks about flaws, or what people see as flaws. And he says something that made me want to do this episode, because I've been thinking about doing this episode. And what he said is, you have to look at the entire thing itself, not just the one portion of it. He says, for instance, if you were to look at the baker, and the baker puts all of this time into making this beautiful bread, and then it puts it in the oven, and some of the bread is going to crack. You don't look at those cracks and say, you know what, I'm not going to eat this bread. That bread does not taste worse because of the cracks. There's beauty in the cracks. The bread is still exactly the same. The bread tastes the same as if it had no cracks. The bread is still just bread. It tastes the same no matter what. But you have to realize that with the cracks that you have, the flaws that you have, it doesn't ruin everything else that is you. It's just part of you. It's part of your experience. And some of you need to forgive yourself for stuff that you've done in the past, or forgive people in your past that have done stuff to you, because that's just a part of your story. It's not the entire story. It's just a part of it. If you were to look at your dog, and your dog has a scar from maybe going outside and playing and got a little bit too crazy and rubbed up against a stick and needed stitches, you don't look at that dog and go, screw this dog, I'm going to throw this dog away because it's got a scar. No, you look at your dog and you love it for all that it is, and realize that it just has that scar, which is just part of its story, just part of something that happened in its life. It's what you have to realize. It's the exact same thing for you. So why do you keep looking at your one flaw? Why do you keep looking at the mistakes that you've had? Why do you think about that small mishap, or think that these mistakes or these flaws, these mishaps are what defines you? The only difference between learning from something and suffering from something is the story that you tell yourself about that something. And you have to realize that. Let me say that again. The only difference between learning from something and suffering from something is the story that you tell yourself in your head about that something. So I'll give you an example. If you make a mistake, you could look at it 5 years down the road and go, man, I really wish I wouldn't have made that mistake with her. You say you're in a relationship, you're a guy and you're like, I really regret the mistakes that I made in that relationship. I shouldn't have done that one thing. That was stupid of me to do that one thing. And now I've messed up and I've ruined my life because of it. No, what you look at it and say, you know what? I messed up. There's nothing I can do about it. But what I can do is change my future and the way I act in the future. In my present moment, I can change it. And I can look at it and instead of suffering, I can use it as a learning experience. So next time I'm in a relationship, I don't make those same mistakes that I made in that relationship. And this could be used for anything. It just doesn't have to be that. And it could be that there's people in your life that have treated you the wrong way. And maybe instead of suffering from it, you learn from it and you think about it, well, how can I make sure I don't put myself in that situation again? How can I learn from it to make sure that if my parents told me I was a piece of crap my entire life, that when I have kids or when I'm in a relationship or when I have friends, that I treat them the way they want to be treated and never say those types of words. Life is a learning experience. Stop suffering over something that you cannot change because you are not broken. The bread does not taste better because it has cracks in it. It's still a piece of bread. The dog is not a crappy dog because it has a scar. It's just part of its story. It's the exact same thing for you. And if you remember the last episode, I was talking about these MIT courses that I'm taking, free MIT courses, which you could take online, which is insane because it costs tens of thousands of dollars a year to go there. But in this psychology course that I'm taking, there's a video and they talk about these, you've seen it all before, the way that they have the lines and there's certain stuff around lines and, it's just an optical illusion. One of the lines looks larger than the other ones. But then when you take all of the other stuff that's around it out of the picture, you're able to see that these lines are all exactly the same. And your life is the exact same way. Someone might have something happen to them and they put all of these things around it that changes that story. It changes your perception of it, just like the stuff around the line changes your perception of the line. The lines are the exact same size, but it's all of the stuff that's going on around them is what makes our perception of it all of the stuff around it changes our perception of the way we see it. So you can have the exact same line, but different stuff around the line, and it looks like it might be longer. Exact same thing happens to you. Someone else could have had the exact same story as you, but instead of using it as a suffering point, they use it as a learning point or a launching pad. So at what point in time are you finally going to forgive those people in your past? At what point in time are you finally going to forgive yourself for messing up? Because you cannot change it. And I know it's stereotypical and cliche or whatever the word might be that you can't change the past, but you really can't change the past. The only thing that you can change, the only thing that you have right now is this present moment. In this present moment, what you do in it is going to dictate what your future is going to be. So stop holding yourself back and stop dragging that weight behind you that you've had for so long. You need to either change your story that you're telling yourself about what happened, or you need to figure out a way to forget about it. Have you ever really regretted doing something to somebody? And, a couple years down the road, you're just like, man, this is really weighing on me. I need to apologize to this person. And you apologize to them, and they don't even remember it happening, or they have very little recollection. And you realize that you've been beating yourself up for years or for a long time over something that was insignificant to that person. And that's what you have to realize, that it's all about the way that it's viewed. To them, it might have been insignificant because they just viewed it that way. To you, it was a huge deal that might have shaped you the past couple of years. And so maybe you should learn to forget about it if you can't change your story around it. And you might say, man, that's really hard to forget about. That's impossible to forget about it. Here's what I'll recommend to you. And this is what I want to leave you with. I want you to get a pen and paper, get a journal, go to the store and get a Moleskine journal. They're like 10 or 15 bucks. There's beautiful journals that you can use every single day. And just put stuff on paper. Have you ever written down or journaled and you feel so much better about something? or you just have a conversation with a friend and you feel so much better about it. It's the exact same thing. Journal every single day the story that you're telling yourself about, how you made these mistakes in the past. Stop beating yourself up over it and just write it down on a piece of paper and say, this is what happened. This is what I regret. This is how I feel about it. And you just put all of it on a piece of paper. Take as much sheets of paper as you need to write down all of these ways, exactly how the story went, exactly what you're beating yourself up over, exactly why you feel like a piece of crap. And then as soon as you get done putting all of that stuff down, on the next page, write down, these are the reasons why I will forgive myself. These are the reasons why I'll forgive myself. And this is what I'm going to do to change my present moment, to in turn change my future. So I'm here to tell you that you're not broken. There's nothing wrong with you. You're a human. You have flaws. You have cracks just like the bread does, but it doesn't change the flavor of the bread. Just like your flaws and your cracks don't change the person that you are. You can always dictate your present moment, which will also change your future. So with that, if that was something that you needed to hear or something that you feel someone that you might love and know needs to hear, please share this with them so we can continue to grow and affect as many people as possible. And I do want to tell you that I appreciate you. You are not broken. And I want you to make it your mission today